Welcome into OutKick the show. I am your fearless leader, Clay Travis. Appreciate all of you hanging out with us. We roll through the post-NFL draft day edition, draft weekend edition of the program. Lots to discuss. Shedeur Sanders, the Eagles at the White House, Belichick's girlfriend, prank calls, Cam Ward goes number one overall, all that and more. But first, Prize Picks, America's number one daily fantasy sports app. With Prize Picks, you against the number. You can cash in whether you love the NBA, whether you love the NHL, whether you love Major League Baseball. Pick your favorite players more or less on their game performances. All you need to do is pick two or more different players. You can pick a variety of different sports. You can do a mix, MLB, NBA, NHL, whatever you want. Turn your hot takes about players into tickets to the NBA Finals. All different sorts of cool opportunities out there. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code OutKick to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code OutKick, $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Okay. I want all of you to watch and share today's show because I'm going to tee off in a big way. In particular, I think in terms of actual sports news, the most indefensible argument I have seen made by sports media in the 21st century was that somehow Shedeur Sanders falling into the fifth round when he was drafted by the Cleveland Browns was in some way evidence of racism. It is simply not true, and it's an embarrassing argument to make for anyone with a functional brain. And I'm going to lay out exactly why it is completely dishonest, and I'm going to do it in a way that I think is going to make an argument to the contrary absolutely indefensible, and there are several different angles that I want to hit. But this is why I believe OutKick has continued to build audience and why I continue to build audience, because there's so much dishonesty out there in the larger sports media ecosystem. Let's start here. The NFL is not and has not been for a very long time racist against black quarterbacks. And by the way, I'm not saying there wasn't racism in the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. I'm talking about since, this is an important stat, 1999, there were 3 quarterbacks, black, drafted in the top 11 of the 1999 draft. Donovan McNabb, 2nd overall. Akili Smith, 3rd overall. Dante Culpepper, 11th overall. This is not some recent thing. That is now 26 years ago. Over a quarter century ago, 3 black quarterbacks were drafted in the first round. NFL teams put the biggest dollar value they could possibly put on their first round picks. All the way back in 1999, the whole black quarterback racism argument effectively ended by the data 26 years ago. Since that time, by my count, counting that 1999 year, there have been, I believe, 26 quarterbacks drafted in the first round black, okay? Including in 2023, the first 3 quarterbacks taken were all black. In 2024, the first 2 quarterbacks taken were black. And in 2025, this year, Cam Ward, congratulations, almost nobody has talked about you at all. The first quarterback taken in the draft was black. There is no racism whatsoever in the NFL at this point in time. Anyone arguing otherwise is being dishonest, and they're just looking for clicks. The data does not support us in any way. Also, the NFL has created more black millionaires than any business in the history of the world. Far from being racist, it's actually created more black wealth than any business in the history of the world. I haven't heard anybody point to any other business that has created thousands of employees who have become millionaires more than the NFL would have. Okay? The data here matters, and I hope you're going to clip, and I hope you're going to share it. To use one individual player as evidence of racism, as many different people tried to do, is also indefensible and a sign of why so few people trust the media today. An anecdotal use of Shedeur Sanders to try and argue against something larger is a huge fallacy of sports media in general and media at large in a larger context. The only reason to use anecdote to illustrate a point is when the anecdote is representative of the larger context. There is no other argument. The NFL is imperfect, but anyone out there arguing that this Shedeur Sanders story was evidence of racism is either profoundly dumb or intentionally using race to divide American sports fans and score points with the dumbest sports fans in America who are unable to actually see what the data reflects. Let me also talk about why the draft to me is fascinating. The draft in general is about 32 NFL teams trying to do whatever they can to get better. Every draft pick effectively represents a different company. And private equity is valuing those different draft picks in a way that they believe will make their team better. And so if you actually look at the individual draft picks to argue that teams are colluding or teams are being intentionally racist, would actually self-correct in a competitive marketplace, because it would mean that star athletes are being undervalued, which means you would get better value by drafting them. Every NFL team had 4 or 5 times an opportunity to draft Shedeur Sanders and chose not to do so, to take another player that they thought was more likely to make their team better. This entire story is actually predicated on mock drafts, which aren't real. We don't see 32 different NFL teams' actual draft boards. All we see are mock drafts. So the entire narrative that Shedeur Sanders is falling is based on media perception of where players are going to get drafted. Much of that media perception focused on Mike Tomlin and the Steelers. Do you think Mike Tomlin, who needed a quarterback, was being racist against Shedeur Sanders by not drafting him? Mike Tomlin, who just had, by the way, is black, right? Which is ludicrous, but just had 2 black quarterbacks last year competing for his starting job, Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. Do you think that billionaires out there who legitimately have billions of dollars at stake on their teams are colluding to not draft a guy that they think would make their team better? Are you crazy? Cam Ward is getting $40 million roughly guaranteed by the Tennessee Titans. Do you think that if people, scouts, believed Shedeur Sanders was as good as Cam Ward, that they would let him fall all the way to the 5th round? this is not in any way a legitimate argument. And frankly, it's such an illegitimate argument that anyone making it should be embarrassed. And I will debate anybody on this issue. The argument that the NFL is racist is not only wrong, it actually attacks the truth, which is the NFL is the ultimate meritocracy. We should make America more like the NFL, not the NFL more like America, because the best man should win and the best man should get paid the most. That's how capitalism works. And so when you are attacking the NFL, you're actually attacking an entity that I believe has done a better job of defending the meritocracy and individual excellence and compensation for individual excellence better than almost any business in America. And if you're out there and you're saying, well, Clay, this is not true, you're crazy, the reality is, listen to me right now, what people are saying. We have a variety of different clips. This is Stephen A. Smith. And then I think we also have Skip Bayless. I want both of these to be able to play. You can play them back to back. These guys have lost their mind, and they're representative of, in this argument, I believe, what the larger sports media ecosystem, by and large, was arguing over the weekend. This was the preeminent argument. Listen to Stephen A.
But if you're the National Football League, okay, clearly it's not about talent anymore. It's about something else. And I'm going to tell you, I spent a large amount of the last 24 hours thinking about nothing more than I was thinking about collusion. So in other words, you're willing to collectively send that kind of message and don't act like it wasn't a collective effort. For all we know, teams collectively, meaning owners, had come to the conclusion nobody's going to touch them in the first 4 rounds. All right, now that the round 5 is here, our message has been sent, so y'all could go about the business of sort of lifting the embargo, for lack of a better phraseology. I don't know what the hell happened. All I know is this: it's freaking unfair. It ain't right. Shedeur Sanders, in my opinion, was targeted because primetime Deion Sanders was targeted. What happened to Shedeur Sanders, in part, not totally, but in part, was a direct assault on Deion Sanders.
All right, and here is Skip Bayless, sadly in his Vanderbilt baseball cap or basketball camp. His Vanderbilt, we share an alma mater. I went to law school. He went to the undergrad. Here is Skip Bayless saying it has to be racism why Shedeur Sanders wasn't drafted.
So if it's not football, what is it? Are there racial undertones here, racist undertones? You be the judge. Racism is so hard to sort of grasp and prove, but it just stinks. It smells of racist undertones, of too many white people in charge in this league who just roll their eyes at both father and son at Colorado.
All right, there are both of those guys. And then we have Mel Kiper, who basically hijacked ESPN's entire draft by arguing for multiple days that this was unacceptable, the decision that NFL teams had made as it pertains to Shedeur Sanders. Here is Mel Kiper, audio clips of him, a variety of different perspectives, I think, on audio. Listen to Mel Kiper.
No, I don't know what we're talking about here.
You're right. You're right.
Yes.
You're right. But you know what? Mel, the draft has spoken.
That's right. That's the key, Mel. It's not putting a value judgment on whether those who passed were right or wrong. They did.
Yep.
So now, whenever you're in circumstances in life, whether you like them, whether you don't like them, whether they're fair or whether they're unfair, you might have to deal with them.
That's
and
right.
now Shedeur Sanders has to deal with
everything.
And for whatever reason, whether he played a minute, microscopic percentage, 0%, or it's a legitimate criticism of the way he conducted himself during the draft process, this was the result.
Yeah.
Now he has an opportunity to answer it. I think yelling at the NFL about it is not.
There's not a quarterback. Boomer Esiason was not happy when he was a second-round pick.
Tom Brady wasn't happy.
They dropped. How'd they turn out?
And you know what? And that's
my point
nobody's arguing that
My
that
point
can
is,
happen.
Race, the NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless. For Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders, all I can say is I think it's disgusting. I don't understand what the heck's going on with this. Fifth player on my board. It's never happened before in 47 years where a player that high has dropped this far into the fourth round at quarterback. That's sitting there in round 4 with other quarterbacks being taken who aren't as good as Shedeur, aren't even close, in my opinion, in terms of accuracy, toughness. Arm strength is certainly more than good enough. I don't see, outside of not being have the rocket arm and the 4.6 speed and a big frame, the 6'3", 230-pound frame, what is he lacking? Somebody's going to have to explain that one to me. Fourth round, Kirk Cousins went. Fourth round, Dak Prescott went. Worked out pretty good for them. It's just that Shedeur was projected a lot higher than they were. That's why we're having this discussion.
Okay, Mel Kiper is only right about one thing. The NFL has done often a difficult and poor job analyzing quarterbacks because it's very difficult. It doesn't have anything to do with race. It's very difficult to project from high school to college what quarterbacks are going to be stars. It's difficult to project from college to the NFL what quarterbacks will be stars. What evidence of that do we have over the last 25 or 26 years? Well, Tom Brady was a 6th-round draft pick, and he's won 7 Super Bowls, and he is the best quarterback, in my opinion, in the history of the game. Did he fall to the 6th round because he was a white guy? Of course not, because teams did not, based on his performance at Michigan, expect him to continue to get better and become far better in the NFL than he was in college. That typically does not happen. Did the NFL not draft Brock Purdy until the absolute last pick of the 7th round because NFL teams were racist against Brock Purdy? Of course not. Projecting NFL quarterback success is very difficult. Nothing that Shedeur Sanders did in college suggests that he was going to be an unstoppable juggernaut in the NFL. And even if he had been truly amazing in college, there are tons of truly amazing Heisman Trophy winner, national championship winning quarterbacks who don't pan out in the NFL. And then there are some guys who come out of nowhere and have a lot of success. In fact, look at the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL, in my opinion, right now. Patrick Mahomes didn't win a lot of games at Texas Tech. Many people said, as part of the process of the draft, if he couldn't win big at Texas Tech, how is he going to win big in the NFL? Also, Josh Allen, not particularly accurate Wyoming quarterback. A lot of people said this guy is way overvalued. He wasn't accurate in college. How is he going to become a great quarterback at the NFL level? Both of those guys were first-round draft picks. Neither of them were the first quarterback taken in their respective drafts, and many people questioned them to the nth degree. The same thing is true of Lamar Jackson. Some people question Joe Burrow, and he went overall number 1. The point is, there are always doubters because there's always evidence of failure. No matter who you are in college, someone like you has succeeded and someone like you has failed. This entire narrative, which completely hijacked the NFL draft over the weekend, was based on projected mock drafts. The whole story here, think about it, was media members expect a player to be drafted higher than he was, and then it didn't happen, and so it was some sort of calamity. People had different opinions than Mel Kiper did. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Mel Kiper is the same guy who's been wrong all the time about the NFL draft for his entire career. In fact, I seem to remember Mel Kiper saying if Jimmy Clausen didn't turn into a star NFL quarterback, that he would retire. Jimmy Clausen did not turn into a star NFL quarterback, and Mel Kiper is still doing his job. If Mel Kiper were truly amazing at what he did, guess what? an NFL team would have hired him as a general manager and paid him millions of dollars for his unique asset allocation strategies as it pertains to the draft. That has never happened. Mel Kiper is an entertainer. The NFL draft is entertainment. Where someone gets drafted is not in any way a moral reflection of current American politics or current American socioeconomics or current American social engineering. It's just 32 NFL teams valuing players to the best of their ability to see where they want to allocate their resources. It's not dissimilar from a private equity fund looking at a variety of different companies and deciding to invest in ones. Sometimes you hit home runs. Sometimes you strike out. A lot of them end up somewhere in the middle ground between those perspectives because that is how the world works when it comes to allocating something based on an uncertain future. If everyone knew what the future talents of players would be, there would be no point in a draft. It would be a completely efficient marketplace. If everyone knew what 5 years from now was going to look like, the entire 7-round NFL draft would be very easy to project. It would be all of the best players that we know are going to succeed, replacing all of the players that we don't know who are going to succeed, but that doesn't happen. And I want to leave you with one last thought on Shedeur here. 26 years ago, in 1999, as I said, Donovan McNabb went number 2 overall, Akili Smith went number 3 overall, and Dante Culpepper went number 11 overall. Prior to 1999, you could argue that black quarterbacks had been undervalued in professional football. Since 1999, you have not been able to argue that. What does it say about us that story in 1999 dealing with race, I don't remember being a primary focus of the 1999 NFL draft. I remember the debate being who's going to be the best quarterback. Tim Couch actually went number 1 overall there. Donovan McNabb ended up having the best future of any of those 4 quarterbacks in the top 11. 26 years later, we're having a more artificial, less honest, less reflected in reality conversation than we did in 1999. What does it say about sports media in general that we are having a quarter century after, more than a quarter century after, black quarterbacks truly had come into ascendance and been treated fairly in the NFL, an argument that is more profoundly dishonest today, 25 years later, than the one that we had back in 1999. It's not a sign of growth for sports media. It's actually a sign of divisiveness dragging us all back into the muck of an era that we all left behind. Okay, couple of other stories that are out there that I want to address. Congrats to Cam Ward, by the way, who nobody talked about, but is an incredible story. So let me just put that out there. This guy came out of nowhere to end up being the number 1 overall pick. Where was he the first 2 years? Incarnate Word? I don't even know where that school is. Then he goes to Washington State. A lot of people still don't believe in him. Transferred to Miami. We're talking about a 0-star recruit who fought his way to overall number 1 quarterback in the draft. It reminds me a bit of the Baker Mayfield story. When Baker Mayfield went as a walk-on to Texas Tech and then left Texas Tech and won his job at Oklahoma and ended up getting drafted number 1 overall. That's an incredible story. 2 different effective 0 stars who found their way to the overall number 1 pick. We barely talked about Cam Ward's incredible, improbable success story or his entire background because Shedeur Sanders hijacked the overall story of the NFL draft, and that is not a credit to sports media. It's actually a function of sports media and many of the most highly paid prognosticators in the country failing. So that story is out there. Top 5 draft eligible quarterbacks, according to Mel Kiper. This is a good poll by Adam. In the year that Patrick Mahomes came out, Mitch Trubisky was the best quarterback in the draft, according to Mel Kiper. Deshaun Kaiser was the second best quarterback in the draft. Deshaun Watson was the third best quarterback. Luke Falk was the fourth best quarterback. Patrick Mahomes was the fifth best quarterback in his draft, behind Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Kaiser, and Luke Falk. Does that sound like a guy who never misses? He had Patrick Mahomes, the best quarterback in the league right now, as fifth best quarterback in his own draft class. Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Kaiser, Luke Falk, all of whom have been busts, all rated above Patrick Mahomes. Does this guy seem like he should be the all-knowing quarterback guru lecturing the rest of America? I think not. All right. I got a lot of topics. I may not get to them all today. I think we have video of a crazy interview here that is from of CBS News interviewing Bill Belichick during this setup. And I want to play this for all of you. Let me make sure that I get this right. This is Bill Belichick and his girlfriend. What's her name? Like Jordan Hudson, something like that. This is what it looked like Sunday morning on CBS News. Watch.
Make sure that that's the...
Jordan was a constant presence during our interview.
You have Jordan right over there. Everybody in the world seems to be following this relationship. They've got an opinion about your private life. It's got nothing to do with them, but they're invested in it. How do you deal with that?
Never been too worried about what everybody else thinks. Just try to do what I feel like is best for me and what's right.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
It's a topic neither one of them is comfortable commenting on.
All right. General rule, if your sweatshirt is older than the girl that you are dating, you may have made a really intriguing and hard to defend decision when it comes to your relationship. That ridiculous navy sweatshirt that Belichick is wearing, I bet is older than his girlfriend is. But what in the world is going on here? 72-year-old Belichick, I believe, 24-year-old girlfriend. He's the coach at UNC. Why is he not in UNC garb for this interview? But for her to decide that she's going to cut the interview topic off and that they're not going to address it is, I think, indicative of how little she understands about the way that these interviews take place. First of all, you can't publicize your relationship all of the time and then say, we're not going to talk about that when you're doing a sit-down interview. You made the choice to have her as the mermaid and Bill Belichick reeling her in, which was a mega viral post. You then had Belichick laying on the beach, posing, holding her up. This is something that you want to receive abundant attention for. You have her on the field in social media videos with Belichick. You have her also at recruiting events, at university-related events. You also have her getting emails and being paid in some way by the university for social media advocacy on Belichick's behalf. This is a weird situation. Now, we just talked about it on Clay and Buck. I don't have any problem with large age gaps in relationships. If people are happy, more power to them. But if one of my boys when they are college age-ish, if I had a 24-year-old son that showed up with a 72-year-old girlfriend, I would say, nope, this is not happening. This is not going to be a reality. We're not doing Thanksgiving. We're not doing Christmas. You are making a really poor choice. I don't have daughters, but if one of my kids ever dates somebody older than me, something has gone profoundly askew. And again, I'm giving you like 25 years. I'm giving you 30 years. If Belichick, 72 years old, was dating a 42-year-old, I think most of you would be like, more power to him. If Belichick were dating a 47-year-old, I think you guys would be like, no issues at all. You can't try and draw attention to this, and then when attention is paid to it, say, oh, we're not going to talk about this. Now, some people are out there like, insulting her, all these different things. I don't have any issue with the relationship being criticized, but you can't put this out there and expect for everyone to just stay completely silent about this. It's weird. It's really super weird. Now, maybe they're going to get married and have 8 kids, and Belichick's going to live to be 120, and the relationship will go, and she'll be 70 one day when he dies, and he'll be 120, and this will be one of the great love stories of our time. I think it's unlikely. And again, I just do the basic math here. In 10 years, Belichick's going to be 82. Most 82-year-olds are in pretty feeble condition. She'll be 34. It gets weirder the more age that you add on. And so I feel like somebody should have spoken out to Belichick, like his kids. Somebody needs to sit him down and be like, dude, what is going on here? This is nonsensical. Couple more stories that are out there. I mentioned Shedeur. The sports media has covered a prank call from a 21-year-old like it was the O.J. Simpson case. I don't remember something that is relatively inconsequential. Look, should you not prank call people who are NFL draft picks and pretend that you are drafting them? Yeah, that's a bad thing to do. Regardless of who the potential draft pick is, I think doing prank calls, recording yourself doing it, whatever your connection is not a good move, okay? Is it unbelievable and so awful that it needs to be a top story and that people are like, what's going to happen to this guy? It's not the O.J. Simpson case. They are, many people in sports media, covering this prank call more aggressively than they actually cover real felonies. You're better off beating your girlfriend than making a prank call. You're better off being a guy in the NFL beating his girlfriend than making a prank call to a potential NFL draft pick based on the punishments that were demanded by all the media I saw out there. This week, since the NFL draft started, has been a disaster for basically every sports media outlet but OutKick. I think we were the only place that didn't completely lose our mind over the Shedeur Sanders situation and try to turn it into some moral travesty. I mean, come on. The guy got drafted a couple of rounds later than Mel Kiper thought he was, and they tried to turn it into the Trail of Tears NFL version. I can't believe it. And the prank call, okay, stupid. Do we really need to cover this like it was the crime of the century? It's a lead story on multiple different sports websites. The guys I saw a bunch of different sports media members demanding prosecutions, taking draft picks from the Atlanta Falcons because the guy's the son, a 21-year-old son of a defensive coordinator or whatever the heck it is. This is bonkers, crazy town stuff. Finally, Saquon. I believe the Eagles are at the White House right now, or they are soon going to be there. But this was, I give credit to Saquon Barkley, who played golf at Bedminster yesterday. Saquon tweeted after everybody was coming after him in his mentions. Let me make sure that I get this right. And I don't want to mess it up. LOL, some people are really upset because I played golf and flew to the White House with the president. Maybe I just respect the office, not a hard concept to understand. Just golfed with Obama not too long ago and look forward to finishing my round with Trump. Now you get out of my mentions with all this politics and have an amazing day. 15 million views on that post, 176,000 likes. So all of these people losing their mind, I give credit to Saquon Barkley. You've seen how awful my golf swing is. I would play golf with any president that invited me to play golf. Bill Clinton, former president, play golf. Barack Obama, former president, I'd play golf with him. George W. Bush, former president, I'd play golf with him. If Joe Biden were able to actually hit a golf ball and walk, I would play golf with Joe Biden as well. I would certainly play with Trump, although I'm too awful of a golfer to do so. I have a crazy idea, and I have been making this same argument since I started writing online in 2004. If you are invited to the White House, and I was just there Friday, if you are invited to the White House, you should go no matter who the president is, because it's an incredible offer. I'm fortunate to have been to the White House. I'm fortunate to have stood by the Resolute desk. I'm fortunate to have flown on Air Force One. I would have gone if Joe Biden invites me. I'll go for any future president if I'm invited by them as well. I agree with everything Saquon said. We got to get back to some form of normalcy in that respect. All right. Love all of you. DBAP unless you need to SBAP. My name is Clay Travis. This has been OutKick the show. I will be back with you guys tomorrow. Same bat time, same bat channel. And I'm curious to see how the White House visit goes with the Eagles, as OutKick's own Armando Salguero, NFL Hall of Fame voter, will be there as well. All right. Love you guys. See you tomorrow. This has been OutKick the show.